All right, here's the thread from Carlos Asuita. It's time to talk about the Swiss. I'm collecting photos of Swiss assault troops from World War I, which has taught me a lot about the mental rigidity I talk about. The Swiss had one general, Ulrich Wille. Switzerland was neutral during the war, but both France and Germany drew up plans to invade if it became necessary. The Germans wanted to use Switzerland as a shortcut, and the French were afraid that the Swiss would join Germany. At the beginning of World War I, the French, Germans, and Swiss were pretty much on equal footing in terms of weapons. They had riflemen, heavy machine guns, and artillery. Uniforms very similar, except for the German spiked helmet. Now we have some pictures here in the next tweet with French, German, and Swiss from left to right. Link in the description. During World War I, every single modern weapon used today was introduced. Ballistic helmets, body armor, automatic rifles, light machine guns, hand grenades, mortars, aircraft, flamethrowers, self-propelled artillery, tanks. They also invented small unit tactics. Typically, a fighting squad had riflemen, one light machine gun, and grenade launchers. It's the same formula we use today. Squad firepower is massive. At the end of World War I, the German and French armies bore no resemblance to what they had been at the beginning of the war, but the Swiss hadn't changed at all. Why? General Villa absolutely rejected the value of all modern weaponry. He said that what would save Switzerland was manliness. That's a direct quote. World War I ended in 1918. All the technology created in the war was improved, but the Swiss didn't change their military doctrine until 1927, and they started building and buying modern weaponry only in 1933. I've spent 2 years looking for evidence that the Swiss tested modern weaponry during the war. Today I found it. The Swiss tested tons of German and Austrian weapons and preserved them at the Swiss Army Museum. These were very advanced weapons. The German 76 mm trench mortar, for example. Trench mortars are indirect fire weapons. You fire at targets you can't see. But the Germans put a flat trajectory carriage on that mortar and turned it into a direct fire weapon that they used against bunkers and tanks. It was an incredibly effective close combat weapon. You pulled it up to the target and let loose. The Swiss tested every possible modern weapon, but General Villa rejected them all. And there was a fanatical anti-war movement in Switzerland. The public refused to allow the army to buy modern weapons. By 1933, the Swiss realized that they were at a massive disadvantage, so they went on a crash program of modernization. Guess what's happening today? The Swiss can't fill all the vacancies in their armed forces. The Swiss have compulsory military service, but they allow people with a crisis of conscience to choose civilian jobs instead of serving in the combat arms. Those with ideological objections can do health, social welfare, or environmental work. So now, the Swiss armed forces can't meet recruitment goals. And almost no women serve. Women in Switzerland got the right to vote in 1977. It's become crystal clear to me that virtually all ideologues are failures. Virtually all ideologies are failures. The only thing that works is the pragmatic nationalist internationalism of Donald Trump. Imagine being ideologically opposed to defending your own country. Between now and the election, we're going to see madness and lies like we've never experienced. Did you catch Bloomberg saying that he was the mayor of New York during 9/11? Nobody called him out on it. Yesterday, LA County District Attorney candidate George Gascon said that he will commute the sentences of every California death row inmate. He has no authority to do that. Bernie Sanders has a platform that will cost more than the entire global economy. That means there isn't enough money in the entire planet to pay for it. The Democrats have weaponized the COVID-19 coronavirus and are trying to tank the economy once and for all. There's no turning back now. This is the last gasp of leftism, so they're like the Nazis fighting to the death in the Reich Chancellery during the Battle of Berlin. Trump can handle it, but I've never been angrier at people who hold certain political views. Their goal is pure destruction of themselves and everybody else. Today at the post office, one of the clerks said to another, "I don't like the president, so I'm not going to vote this year." The other clerk was understandably shocked into silence. Well, she finally said, the way to get the president out of office is to vote against him. And the other clerk said, really? Huh. This was a woman in her 50s, and she didn't know how voting works. And then outside the post office, a vision of beauty glided toward me. She had jean micro shorts, dreadlocks, and a t-shirt. Although white, all her exposed skin was a dark olive drab from ground-in dirt. She was barefoot, and she had a muffin top that stuck out 3 inches above the waist of her shorts. And she was having an animated conversation with the empty air. She walked past me and went into the post office. I drove home at 200 miles an hour. And San Francisco has declared a state of emergency because they now have more drug addicts than high school students. People are keeling over in the streets. But Trump. The only answer is the mother of all ass kickings on November 3rd. Trump needs to win at least 48 states, and the GOP needs to take back the House of Representatives. Who knew that so many people in the world just wanted to be crazy and stupid? Rigidity of thought always gets worse until the rigid person is committing every form of suicide. Defiantly. Fine by me. I'll give them a hand. The faster they crater, the better. Am I right? The end.